So I was thinking about Season 4 of Fortnite, primarily the launching of the rocket, you know, the one that cracked the dome and started all the hype for Season 5 and all that stuff, and it kind of dawned on me that for many younger gamers, for, you know, many people who just started gaming within the last decade or so, this is probably their first big ARG or in-game event, and that's actually kind of fascinating to me. The fervor surrounding the rocket and, you know, tilted towers possibly being destroyed was impossible to ignore, and honestly it was totally infectious. Going into the season, I didn't really care. I was like, oh cool, they might get rid of tilted towers. I'm glad to see that, you know, they're being progressive about updating the map and keeping it fresh and all that. But by the time that the rocket launched, I was on the hype train 100%. I was sitting there looking up theories, I was trying to participate in the ARG, I was absolutely sucked in. And that just goes to show that Epic is probably one of the best companies in terms of fan service right now, so my hat's off to them. They did an absolutely great job with Season 4 building up that hype and then having it carry into Season 5 itself, which, while personally I'm taking a bit of a Fortnite break getting ready for Monster Hunter World, I've heard that it's actually been a really good season so far, and I'm glad to hear that. But I was browsing through Reddit some time ago and I saw a post with someone basically proclaiming that Epic was one of the best companies ever because no other company in the history of gaming had done something, you know, of this magnitude. And like many other people, my first thought was, yo, were you ever there for the Dark Portal opening? And that's when it hit me, like, these in-game events that MMOs had leading up to modern gaming, first off, they don't get enough love, and second off, they are basically the precursors to a lot of the stuff that we see today. So what we're going to talk about today are the different types of in-game events that you would see in MMOs, and why these events have a bit more weight to them than the type of in-game events that you would see in games of service and MMO-lite games now. People will say that World of Warcraft was one of the first games that brought PC gaming to the mainstream, and you know what? I would probably agree with that. The opening of the Dark Portal was one of the biggest deals to happen in gaming for quite some time. Shortly before the release of World of Warcraft's first expansion pack, the Burning Crusade, there was a worldwide event that was held across all servers. Creatures from Outlands started invading Azeroth, led by the Supreme Doom Lord Kha'Zix. I still remember what it was like sitting outside that portal, watching all these completely geared out, high level, high rank guildies just completely decimating all these creatures waiting for Doomlord to spawn. And I was just sitting there completely mind blown about the fact that, like, I felt a part of this world. I felt like I actually had some impact, and it felt like something that was on a completely other level than games that I had played before up until this point. And it was just completely crazy to sit there and watch like 100 other people fighting this battle, and I was in the middle of this war. I was fighting for Azeroth. I was putting my shit aside, my hate for the Horde, and trying to actually help repel this evil. It was something that solidified my love for WoW, and while I don't play anymore, I have those fond memories, and I have those memories that still give me a little surge of adrenaline when I think about it to this day. So expanding upon that moment and thinking about genre-defining moments across other MMOs, it seems like there were 3 common different events that you would see across different games. The first one is the one that I just talked about, which would be game expanding events. I feel like, honestly, World of Warcraft is the king of game expanding events. Not only did you have the ones for, you know, Burning Crusade, but you also had Cataclysm and the Cracking of Azeroth, and you had Wrath of the Lich King and the Zombie Plague of Booty Bay. The only other game that I could think of that would come close would maybe be like Guild Wars 2 and the Burning of Lion's Ark, or Lion's Arch. Anyways, over the course of a year, players were fighting back different forces, only to find out that Scarlet Briar was behind the whole thing. This culminated in her attacking Lion's Arch, destroying the entire city. All the players had to basically take back Lion's Arch, and after she was defeated, they had to take time rebuilding the city, which meant securing refugees, getting materials to rebuild the city, and it was a fantastic event to put a nice bow on what was an excellent opening season for Guild Wars 2. The next type of event that you saw most commonly in MMO games were the last ones that ever happened within said MMO, the game-ending ones. What I really like about these is that depending on the MMO, you can really tell when a team cares about their community and cares about the people who are loyal to the game despite the fact that it wasn't really that successful. For example, the Matrix Online. Yeah, there was a Matrix Online MMO game, which I don't understand because they only made the one Matrix movies, but I mean it was a kick-ass movie, so I guess it warranted enough to make an MMO. But anyways, I digress. When the MMO inevitably shut down, the dev team actually decided to have quite a bit of fun with everyone. They ended up giving all the players that were still playing the game, they ended up giving them dev level superpowers, and the last moments of the game basically culminated on everybody imploding on themselves like some weird papercraft origami type of thing. And we also have the story of Final Fantasy XIV, a game which was just so hated and broken that the devs had to literally kill off the in-game universe just to reboot it as a functioning game. And you know what, say what you want about the reboot, say what you want about the transition from the old game to the new game, but that cinematic that they made to show like the end of the world is just absolutely beautiful and absolutely spectacular. And as someone who never even played the game, but as someone who's a huge Final Fantasy fan, I could kind of, you know, put myself in that shoes pretty quickly, kind of made me want to shed a tear a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. And you know, even thinking about it now, it kind of makes me want to try A Realm Reborn because it seems like it still has a pretty healthy user base and a pretty active user base too. Now, the last type of event that you see most commonly in MMOs, and the ones that literally become the stuff of legends, are the ones that are created by us, the players themselves. Oftentimes, these moments, depending on the magnitude or how viral they get, they end up becoming enough to get a whole slew of new people to try a game. How many people tried Ultima Online when you found out that the creator of the game, who decided to make a public in-game appearance, got murdered and got his castle robbed? Yeah, that actually happened. Lord British, one of the creators of Ultima Online, decided to make an in-game appearance and somebody just killed him. And another time, you know, he decided to make another appearance and people just decided to rob his castle while he was gone. I can only imagine how many people decided to try World of Warcraft after watching the Leroy Jenkins video and just seeing this crazy ass dude run in and completely pull a whole room of whelps, and the only thing he has to say is, "At least I got chicken." And I even decided to give the ultimate spreadsheet simulator, EVE Online, a try after hearing about the Guiding Hand Social Club heist. Alright, so long story short, here's the quick breakdown. So basically, the CEO of a corporation, think kind of like the head of a guild. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. The CEO decided to play a little bit dirty and participated in some scams that ended up stealing a lot of money from a lot of different corporations. In doing so, she happened to, you know, piss off a couple other people, and these people or person went to what they call the Guiding Hand Social Club, essentially another guild, and gave them a contract to bring them the corpse of the scamming CEO. So over the next 12 months, the Guiding Hand Social Club infiltrated every single level of the CEO's corporation. We're talking top to bottom. They had agents on the board of directors, many high-ranking positions, and they even had one person who ended up becoming part of the inner circle of the CEO. So one morning, this brain trust double agent convinced the CEO to fly them around in this extremely expensive limited edition ship next to even more expensive and even more rarer ships. This all culminated at a 6 a.m. stick up and raid, along with the destruction of these two really expensive ships, as well as Guiding Hand stealing everything in every core hangar in the entire galaxy. It's a story that is almost 15 years old now at this point, and it's still the story that a lot of EVE veterans will tell in order to try to bring somebody onto their side. So at this point, you're probably telling yourself, but Reptarus, these are all things that I've experienced in my other games, whether they be MMO-lites or games as services. To act like these MMOs do anything different than what modern MMOs or even, modern games as services do is just completely absurd. I mean, right now the Division has game expanding events along with Season 4 of Fortnite, which you just spent all that time talking about. And speaking of Fortnite, I mean, you saw that video where the kid took out like 90 other people and completely ruined that rocket launch for everyone else, right? And you know what I would say to that strange sounding person that sounds like me making a weird voice? Those are absolutely valid points, but here's where I think the main differences are. First and foremost, sheer numbers. With instances like the opening of the Dark Portal, I mean, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to be fighting alongside like 100 people. Same thing went for PvP battles in the Old Republic. Most modern games as services and most MMO-lites can't really handle those type of numbers. They can't really provide these types of experiences where you're just part of a mob of people trying to overcome one objective. In games like Destiny and The Division, you don't get to do these awesome and insane 10, 20, 40 man raids. You don't ever get to have that feeling of slight fear and slight discomfort when you have to jump onto another guild's Discord server because both of you guys have to team up to take on a bunch of jerks from an opposing faction that just won't leave you guys alone. I can't think of very many games of services. I can't think of any games of services that would have something like a Baron's worldwide PvP match just erupting out of nowhere. And when it comes to planning a satisfying ending that actually thanks the people that invested their time and money into their game, once again, I can't think of too many companies that would step up to that plate. Epic? Yes, absolutely. Whenever they decide to put Fortnite to bed or start Fortnite 2 or whatever they have planned to kind of sunset the OG game is going to be phenomenal. I can already guarantee that. Since Destiny had to transfer from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, they couldn't really give your character a send-off because, your character has to live to continue the fight. And I think that just might end up being a thing with, bigger companies not wanting to plan for the inevitable demise of their game, despite the fact that no matter how successful it is, it's inevitably going to demise somehow, some way. I mean, from a business perspective, I completely get it, but from a fan service perspective, it's just kind of like, come on guys, come on. And those player created moments, not quite the same. I don't think you could ever have a story about somebody sneaking into a Fortnite guild for over a year and somehow infiltrated them to steal all their skins and all their, dances and all that other shit. With the way that guilds and such work in like Destiny and The Division, and I'm sure in even some degree the way that it works in like WoW now, you can't really just go in there, fake your way to the top, and then just run away laughing and giggling with everyone's loot in a guild anymore. Most MMO-lites and most games of services, while they do encourage, player creativeness, player expression, and all that stuff, within the limitations of the game, not that many of them allow for these completely crazy, out of left field, almost something like out of a movie or, like a Tom Clancy novel type of stuff. I kind of thought that Fallout 76 would be the game that could kind of reignite that kind of role-playing and storytelling within a multiplayer facet, but it looks like with the way that multiplayer is going to be instanced and the fact that, you might get a different server every time you log on and all this other stuff, we might not really get that, and that bums me out despite the fact that I am still very excited for that game. Honestly, the only game that I could think of that would be coming out in the quote-unquote near future that would allow for that type of storytelling and role-playing and that type of depth would be Star Citizen. And like I said, it's coming out in the near future, and I'm using that in quotes and italics. So you might as well just throw that shit on Valve time and see what happens. And the last thing is, I think we've kind of reached the point where these type of events are not really special anymore. They're almost kind of expected now. If you have a big budget game, if you have a famous game, if you have a well-populated game, you almost have to deliver these types of experiences in order to keep people emotionally and mentally invested, or else people are just going to drop it for the next most exciting thing that they see. With a lot of the events that I mentioned, while we may have known that something was coming up, we never really really knew to what extent, and now it feels like we kind of live in a time where everything is completely data mined to hell and there's little to no surprise for much else anymore. I don't know, it just feels like there's something very raw and organic and human about these types of events that you see in MMOs that you can't really replicate in other games. You could, but the magic's not the same anymore. That's really the best way I can describe it. But at the same time, while MMOs may be a genre that I don't want to say is on the decline, but definitely not as popular as it used to be, mainly because of the fact that like 2 or 3 juggernauts essentially own the genre now. Anyways, while MMOs may not be as popular, I think it is very telling in regards to the way that they do storytelling. And it's very telling in their influence and how other games have tried to replicate that same type of feel. Anyways, I just wanted to take some time to kind of reminisce about some moments that I experienced during my MMO years, and I wanted to just kind of think and reflect on why we don't really see events of that magnitude anymore, or at the very least why we don't see very many events of this magnitude anymore. It wasn't really up until the whole Fortnite Season 4 debacle did I even realize what we've been kind of missing out on as gamers. Anyways, I don't really have any much else to say, so we're just gonna cut it to live action Reptarus. Alright, so thank you for making it this far. I know it was a little bit longer video than usual, but as you can tell, I have a lot to say about MMORPGs because that was my life for a while. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your guys' favorite MMO memory of all time was. I didn't even get to touch on like Planet Side, to Tabula Rasa, Asheron's Call, Dark Age of Camelot, all those MMORPGs that basically brought us to the social games that we have now, and I could have easily made a half-hour video just talking about MMO events and the impact it has on modern gaming. But anyway, as usual, social medias, all right here. I'm gonna start trying to upload my videos onto Instagram TV as well, usually a day or two after the initial upload of this one. I just gotta, you know, re-edit a couple things, but nothing too bad. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for interacting with my stuff, and let's continue the conversation down below. Let's talk about MMOs. Is there even an MMO besides WoW that you guys are really excited for anymore? I'm completely done with WoW at this point, but I definitely would love to try out Final Fantasy sometime, but you know, with little ones like this, I can't really invest in an MMO anymore. So yeah, as usual, we'll talk, we'll game. Been taking a break from Twitch to get ready for Monster Hunter and make more videos, so yeah, maybe I'll try to do something before the release of the game and kind of talk about that. I will say, really quick, I've been trying to play Warframe and I really enjoy the game, but at the same time, it just doesn't click for me. So maybe I'll make a video talking about that, and maybe you guys can help me kind of just figure out what's going on in this disconnect I'm having. But until next time, as always, I love you all, hearts all around. I'm working on a new catchphrase. Everybody do the dinosaur. Everybody dinosaur the subscribe button, and dinosaur the like button, and dinosaur your comments down below. So, oh god, we're running long. Alright, next time. Till next time, I'll see you guys. Bye. Peace. Say bye.
Moments of calm, nothing left to be found. A mirror rightly thrown.